In several occasions during a questionnaire that I have popped up on my Instagram account, excrewnextcrew, few very dear Instagrammers have extended their interest to know how my first day as a cabin crew looked like, or to know how my first flight as an experience was like. To many, including myself over here, working as a cabin crew sounds like the dream job for everyone who would like to travel the world, for everyone who wants to be in a job where every day is a different day. If you have ever thought of being a cabin crew, and if you have been wondering how the job looks like, is it a fun job, how perhaps my first day as a cabin crew might look like, I strongly suggest you to stay engaged until the last minute of this video. I will share with you what are the things that I've learned on my first flight, which I believe were the core component for starting up and building up a successful career that lasted for 10 years. I flew for QATAR Airways for 10 years and I have resigned from my last work position as a cabin service director. And now I'm currently studying aviation management master program at Wildau Institute of Applied Science in Berlin. And my name is Julia George. I have joined QATAR Airways in the year 2009, and after completing my initial cabin crew training course for QATAR Airways, and for those of you, or for most of you over here, you would know that the initial trainings for the Middle Eastern Airlines, the duration for the initial trainings for the Middle Eastern Airlines is actually 2 months. So when the training would come to an end, the crew are scheduled to fly observation flights, first flights, and on that flight we are called an observer crew, which means we're not part of the crew complement. We are an extra crew on board the aircraft. What do I mean? The crew complement, let's say we have an Airbus 320 where the maximum crew on board the aircraft as per the jump seats, the cabin crew seats, is 6. L1, R1, L4, R4, R4A and R4C, and we would have an extra crew that would be the observer crew, in this case was me, that is there to conduct her first observer flight, or his. When I say observer crew, this doesn't mean that we should just, you know, stay on the side and just look and observe. In this case, ladies and gentlemen, it is of utmost importance that as an observer crew, we actually be initiative to actively participate especially during the service on board. This doesn't mean, you know, that you would conduct the safety and security duties, as you are not part of the crew complement, but the service on board the aircraft is something that you're more than welcomed to participate, and it's of utmost importance that you display that willingness to do that. My very first observation flight was to Khartoum in Sudan, and the second observation flight was Cairo in Egypt, beautiful land of the pharaohs, Egypt. But in today's video I will stick to explaining to you how was my very first flight, because whatever I'm gonna talk to you about my first flight was the exactly same experience, but with a different set of crew on my second flight, and both of the flights were turnarounds and were having the same amount of cabin crew that were there, and it was just amazing. Now, I was trained for Airbus 319 and 320 at the beginning, and Airbus 330 for the first 6 months of my career, and then later on, as our career progressed, as the 6 months of the flying were over, because that was called the probation period, we were getting trained for Boeing 777. This was back in the days, as we would say, but this has changed after a few years of my flying in QATAR Airways, as not only QATAR Airways, but most of the airlines in the world, their fleet is being upgraded. Airlines do order new aircrafts constantly, and that means that this new aircraft that the airlines are ordering, something good to know, is it's aircraft that are environmental friendly, aircrafts that are designed and up to date with the latest technology, etc, etc. And also aircrafts definitely do get old, and we hope that an aircraft will be legally retired, and it's not going to happen anything that I don't even want to mention in this video. Let's go to my first flight to Khartoum. It feels amazing. I really love taking a flight back in time and remember this. I have prepared my uniform and my baggage, and I remember that I had a very light sleep the night before, as I was so excited about it. My very first flight was about to happen. It was a morning flight, as I mentioned, the flight to Khartoum, Sudan. And it's a time where I would finally wear the burgundy uniform. You know, for 2 months you're all the time in your business attire and you dream of wearing that burgundy uniform, so it was just amazing. I woke up in the morning, prepared breakfast, ate, and went downstairs for the totally ready in my uniform. The crew bus came in front of my building, and it came at the correct time that it was scheduled on the paper downstairs. Needless to say this, but my mom was literally in tears the night before when we spoke about it, as she knew how much I loved and I enjoyed training. She was informed, and I keep her up to date with the training and everything that I have learned, and she was really excited for me. So it was kind of an emotional, in a positive sense of the word, of course, talk that we've had. So when I went to the bus, I boarded the bus. I had a talk with few crew that were on the bus, as I'm generally a very talkative person. Whenever I would go in the supermarket, or, you know, I just hang out somewhere, I see people, I talk just instantly. It's something that I'm brought up with, and I think that it also helped me to you know, present that outgoing personality and interpersonal skills during my open day, assessment day, and final interview. So I arrived to the, before I go further, the crew in the bus were very encouraging. I shared that it was my first flight, you know. I reached the operational center where the cabin crew are reporting for the flight. I've reported on time, and I have went and checked for the designated briefing room where the briefing was happening before every flight. This is something that during the training it was covered. We knew exactly where we were going, and, you know, first thing you do, you report for your flight, and then you search for the briefing room. Then in the briefing room, I met the cabin crew. There were 5 ladies who were wearing a uniform of burgundy color, just like mine, and one lady was sitting at the big desk inside in the room, and she was wearing a gray uniform with a scarf, and I could not hide how amazed I was. I greeted everyone individually, and while sitting and waiting for the briefing to officially start, I informed that it was my first flight. That then the briefing started, and also really have to be honest with you, I did not feel any fear in the briefing, because usually you would hear the cabin crew being scared from the first aid and safety question that, you know, your supervisor will ask you before every flight, and it's a part of the legal requirement. The crew have to answer that one question, but it's not a question that you don't know. It's something that you're trained for. You've passed all the exams, so, you know, I wasn't afraid because I was so confident. I don't want you to get me wrong, but I was not afraid because I'm not afraid to make a mistake. I was confident to do a mistake because if I do a mistake in the answer, that's the perfect opportunity for me to learn. This is why whenever I would go for a job interview or whatever, you know, I'm facing a situation which I've never been before, I'm not afraid to fail, because failure will only make me learn. Simple as that. This way of thinking has actually shaped my attitude, and therefore, as I said, a lot of times, a lot of people around me have observed me as someone who knows everything, where in fact it's the thing that I'm just not afraid to make a mistake. It's not that I'm someone who, you know, knows everything. Anyway, let's go to the topic again. The briefing was an awesome experience and everything went well. I've answered the questions because, as I said, the questions are not a rocket science. The questions, I usually heard stories of, you know, supervisors asking the crew on their first flight very hard questions. And in this case, my experience was that I was asked a question that I was aware of. And at that time, we did not have a format of cabin crew questions, safety and security and first aid questions that now the crew have it. Usually the crew have this, you know, paper or this book with all the questions that, you know, they get a chance to practice, which is nice once they become a cabin crew. If you're a candidate, you don't need that. Please don't look for it. Now, everyone, including the supervisor, at the end of the briefing extended their willingness and their support, you know, and to guide me and assist me throughout the flight. I was so happy about it. It was just overall a positive environment that we created, a positive first impression. From then onwards, we took the bus that took us to the aircraft and we boarded the aircraft. The moment we boarded the aircraft, we actually started our ground preparation duties. Now, the entire scenario when you board the aircraft for the first time as a cabin crew is slightly, if not fully, different from the training one. For the simple reason, in training is, I wouldn't say more tensed, but it's completely new for you and you're there tensed by itself. But over here it's more relaxing because you're talking, you're laughing, you see the crew being confident, and in that environment you're just, rolling in yourself. So we stowed our service jackets and our shoes, and as well as our bags, because after takeoff we take the service jacket and we change from the heel shoes to the flat shoes where we do the service with it, which are very comfortable. I was so ready when I reached to, and I stand, whatever the crew were doing, I was actually doing the very same thing after them. I asked them that, guys, at any point of time, I'm here, just tell me, I'll do it. Tell me whatever you need me to do. It was that readiness moment, and I'm very sure whoever has the first flight, and I know that people who have had the first flight are watching this, so you all know how we felt, but it was overall a great experience. The first thing that I do, I started checking the compartments. I started opening myself, to get familiarized with the safety equipment, the locations, to ensure that I have remembered things from training. Let's say the compartment is closed and I don't know what is inside, I'll just open it. I'll open a dog house and I'll check. I was initiative to explore the aircraft I'm gonna be working for I don't know how much time, and it ended up to be 10 years. I checked the oxygen bottles, I've checked the fire extinguishers, I was checking the laboratories, the standard things that, when you're new crew, you're checking the flash, the smoke detector, checking the water. Then I was checking the passenger seats. I was observing how the crew are doing their pre-flight checks of their seats, of the cabin crew seats, the safety equipment, the aircraft doors. Basically, I was, I wouldn't say running behind them, but I was totally into observe and see everything. I also got a chance to practice the operation procedures, as some operation safety procedures are actually mandatory for the clearance after completing the 2 observation flights. That is something that goes on a paper and everything is written. What are the things that you're supposed to, practice, check and see. The ground preparations were an enjoyable experience. They went very quickly, but I have learned a lot during the ground preparation. For my very first flight. There was something that totally was amazing to me, was the teamwork, and the atmosphere being on that flight was simply great. Then we had something called a joint briefing with the flight deck, where the flight deck comes and they are introducing themselves. They ask for the crew to introduce themselves, to get to know each other. They're sharing with us the flying time, the altitude, whether there will be a turbulence or something. And as soon as they found out that I was a new crew, they extended their support to me and they welcomed me in the flight deck at any time when I want to visit them. And also, the mandatory thing that I supposed to visit the flight deck, check some procedures which are related to the oxygen for the pilots. That is something that they participate in this scenario, and it was an amazing experience. I was feeling, all the time the people would get to know that I'm new. They would all the time be like, yeah, whatever you need, we are here, just come all the time, just ask, not a problem. You feel just welcomed, you're not afraid. This was the atmosphere that was there. Then we were ready for boarding. The ground staff came and, informed the supervisor that passengers are on the way, and we started the boarding. I went to my boarding position, and it was in the middle of the aircraft, and after saying, hi, good morning, welcome on board, about 80 to 90 times, some passengers I didn't greet, I heard the announcement that all passengers are on board the aircraft, and the flight was almost full. There were some free seats available, and at this time when I heard the announcement that all passengers are on board, I totally forgot my training because I got blank. I didn't know what to do. And then the next thing I heard that the CS, the supervisor, asked over a PA that cabin crew should arm the doors for departure. So at that time, I remember that I have to check how the arming procedure is done. So I went to the forward to the supervisor, because in one of the standards that I'm supposed to do and learn is to arm the doors. So I did that one, and we armed the doors, and then she started the confirmation through the interphone. After the arming procedure was done, I observed that the supervisor started reading the welcome announcement, after which followed the pre-flight safety video, which was played at that time. Along with the safety video, we were securing also the cabin. Before we start securing the cabin, actually, we did the ground service, which at that time was sweets and freshets. I will never forget the sweets and freshets moment. It was something that was in the ground preparations. You know, the most junior usually would prepare the baskets with the sweets and freshets, and when the passengers are on board, we'll start the service. Then we secured the cabin. After that, we asked everybody to, you know, fasten their seatbelts, stow their tray table, keep the window shades open, and, you know, check for the exit rows. Keep the seats upright and check the exit rows are free. Exit rows are free of any bags. Then there was the PA from the senior, or the cabin senior, who said that we're supposed to take our seats for takeoff. We all went to our positions, to our seats. We sit down and we started our silent review. Usually that silent review, you know, you're just making yourself quiet, and you're doing a revision of all the drills in your mind. In order something unexpected to happen, you're already prepared and your mindset is ready for it. You're not thinking about your boyfriend, girlfriend, where you're going to be doing shopping, but you're thinking and you're doing your silent review. It's a very well-known procedure among the cabin crew, especially for the Middle Eastern airlines. And but don't worry, if you're a candidate, you totally don't have to know about the silent review. I was an extra crew member, so I was sitting on a passenger seat, and I did not have a jump seat, and we took off. The takeoff, the first takeoff as a cabin crew in uniform, was the greatest feeling ever. It was sharp, it was a good climb rate, it was amazing. I'll never forget it. The fasten seatbelt sign was recycled. That means the crew can stand up from their seats. Only the crew for the passengers will be completely off, and I quickly ran to the aft galley. I prepared with the dining jacket and the shoes. Then we started our service after that. I can still remember the menu: frittata with chicken sausage and hash brown potatoes and pancakes. These were the options. I can still remember it, as I said. We also served a lot of drinks: tea, coffee, still water, sparkling water, Coke, juice, all types of juices. And it was just an amazing experience. When the service started, it was just, you know, I would say that I really, again, completely forgot the training, but I had the crew to, you know, guide me and remind me what are the things that we're supposed to start now. Oh, now you're supposed to put the lemon slices on top. Where is the tea? Where is the coffee? And stuff like that. I have to share with you that I was very initiative, and on my first flight, I said that I want to take the cart, and I went first cart. Another crew was assisting me from the back. And I was doing the service by myself, asking the passengers, just like they trained us, you know, what they want to have, which option they want to have. And I completely enjoyed it. After the meal service and, you know, collection and all these things that were standard thing, I observed that the supervisor comes up with a card. And then I found out that she's gonna do the duty free. So I stood up from the back of the cart and went just to observe and see how she's doing the duty free. The service completely along with the duty free was something that I think lasted for 2 hours, more or less. And I remember when everything was done, we had approximately 1 hour before we start preparations for landing. And at that time we had breakfast, there were call bells, I was running, you know, I was so excited to actually attend the call bell. And during this time we interacted and we talked to the crew in the galley, and they all gave me so valuable advices and tips, and they were all so encouraging and supportive in a sense. Oh, don't worry, you will learn that. Don't worry, in a few months you'll be very fast. You know, just don't be afraid to make a mistake. That was the thing that they were sharing with me. So meanwhile, as I mentioned, I was also checking the lavatories to replenish them to see if they're clean. I was very keen on taking the requests from the passengers in order to learn what are the things that they most frequently ask, because this is my job. I'm there to serve the customers and to make their journey from point A to point B an unforgettable one. So the time for that flight simply flew by for me. And approximately 3.5 hours after takeoff, we were ready to start the approach, you know, to Khartoum. And I remember we started securing the cabin, you know, passengers, there was an announcement, they went to their seats, and overall, I was not sure which sequence comes, but the moment something starts, let's say starts the announcement, I would be very confident to know what I do, as now I get reminded of what do we have to do right now. This is the confusion that every crew member that does the first flight is there, but then later on, as time passes, these things are becoming something pretty standard, and we know in advance when the landing will start, of course. Then when everything was ready, we secured the cabin, we sit down, we landed. After landing, of course, the aircraft was parked, doors were disarmed, and a confirmation was given that we can open the doors for disembarkation, the passengers to start leaving the aircraft. And I have to share with you that I was kind of feeling, you know, I was so emotional when the passengers were disembarking, but why I say it was emotional, because I was so professional at the same time. I was keep on telling it to myself that I have to be professional. It was such a rewarding feeling, and I observed that when they were leaving the aircraft, and it was not a thing that was happening only on my first flight, that happened on my first flight. This was something that was happening literally on every single flight. Passenger will come to the door and, you know, will just look at the crew and will say, "Thank you so much for the flight." You will have passengers who would come and shake your hand and will say, "Thank you. This flight has been the most amazing experience." And for the simple reason, you know, you just give them 2 glasses of orange juice because, you know, they were thirsty, or you did something that they didn't got it on their previous flight, or they were not expecting it. And this was the time when I observed that people were so genuine, they were so honest. I could see that in their eyes. I could feel that they were genuinely thankful that we did that service on board the aircraft, and that they liked it. Once all the passengers were out, then there was a time where the cleaning personnel, the ground staff came, and the preparations for the turnaround, because it was a turnaround flight, started. I observed that some of the crew started helping the cleaning personnel to change the pillowcases, and whatever they started doing, I would just, you know, follow them, and I did that. And then I remember the supervisor came to the back, and she was, you know, amazed. She really liked that we did this initiative. This is how I have learned that the first impression is really important, and this is how I have learned to be initiative and to be proactive. On my very first flight, I have learned the very first lesson of what does it mean to go beyond the expectations of what is expected from me. For instance, in Qatar Airways, the crew do not clean the aircraft. There is a cleaning department in Qatar, in the base, in each and every station. But I observed crew who are initiative, you know, they tend to help the cleaners, not in a way they put gloves and, you know, start rubbing, but, you know, those small little things, change the pillowcases, close and zip the bags with the blankets, collect the blankets if there is any extra blanket, collect the headphones. What are the things that the crew sometimes don't do, or sometimes do, they would just, you know, help them. During this ground time, I also went and I visited the flight deck crew. I got familiarized with the emergency equipment there, with the procedure that's supposed to be done. Then we've had again the flight deck who told us, who did the small briefing. They told us the flying time, the altitude for the return sector, and we were again ready to board the passengers, and we had an announcement quickly that the passengers are at the boarding gate. What happens when you hear that the passengers will start boarding? As a crew, you go to your boarding position. But now it was very easy, I must say, because I already kind of knew maybe 30% of the things that I've learned out of all the things that I've learned and practiced now, already I knew that my boarding position is here. I don't have to, you know, the crew shouldn't tell me now, go to your boarding position, because I was already there. I knew where I'm supposed to be standing. So it's much more easier, the return sector. And as I said, we did the exact same thing as on the way going. Boarding, then we did the ground service, then we secured the cabin, then we had the video before securing the cabin, and then we took off for flying from Khartoum to Doha. And after takeoff, again, it was the meal service, and it was just the standard thing that we do, the individual requests of the passengers, the call bells. I was so happy to answer, but throughout my flying career, there were times where I was not really willing to answer call bells. It's a normal thing, but nevertheless, I love working with people, and I'm just someone who just loves to be in that customer service field. That's just me. The return flight, as I have mentioned, was pretty much the same as the inbound flight, and then what happens, we again started our approach to Doha, and we started the cabin secure for landing and all those same things as on the going sector. Then I was in the middle of the aircraft. I remember when I heard ding dong, ding dong. That was the call, which means that the cabin crew are calling each other. All of a sudden, the cabin senior came and said that we have to be quicker in securing the cabin, and she said that we have gotten a shortcut, I remember, and that we're gonna land soon. This is the time where I got shocked a bit, like, what is that shortcut? What does that mean? Then the crew later on told me that shortcut means that we're gonna land sooner. We have gotten a clearance to land a bit earlier. And the very same moment, I've learned another lesson on that flight is how to be faster. Because there's no other option. You just simply have to be faster. You have to be faster in telling to people how to secure, in telling to people to fasten their seatbelt. If you were before starting, please fasten your seatbelt, you know, could you, sir, please upright your seat? Now there's no time. You'll be fasten seatbelt, upright seats, and you know, you just have to be faster. That's the way. That doesn't mean you're supposed to be shouting. As I sat down, I saw outside a layer of clouds, and I saw how the plane just, you know, dive into those clouds. And soon, you know, we landed. We said individual goodbye to all the passengers, and then we did our post-flight checks. Then we took off our stuff from the aircraft, and we left the aircraft. So my first flight was over. I had a small discussion and a small conversation with the supervisor at the end, where she filled my papers. There were papers to be filled of the things that we practiced. I remember she asked me how did I like my flight and how did I feel about the first experience. I told her that I love it. I told her that I don't want to do anything else, and this is the job for me, because that day, although it was a long day, I remember I came home in the afternoon, late afternoon, but I was so happy. I said, this job is absolutely me. While I was waiting for the bus to drop me home, I observed the crew that were going and that were coming for the flight. I felt so thankful that I'm there. I promised to myself that I'm gonna make the best of all the things that I will learn out there. I will make the best of all that journey out there. And then the second day was also my second flight, where I have shared that at the beginning was nothing less and nothing different than the first flight. Those are pretty much the lessons that I have learned on my first flight. I've learned, my first flight actually set up the tone for how I am gonna be waiting and greeting the crew who are flying for the first time. Crew who are flying for the first time, or who are having that observer flight as I had, were perhaps scared, are perhaps, you know, feeling like they don't know anything. Not everyone is like me. I know that very well, that is not afraid to make a mistake. There are people who are afraid to make a mistake. We have to facilitate that road of expression, because those people, maybe they are less experienced than us, but they should get a platform to express what they think, first of all. How we should understand how they feel, and we should be there to help them, just the way my crew on my very first 2 flights helped me. The supervisors, I can talk about my supervisors on my first flights, or at least in my first year of flying, maybe in a video that can last for 24 hours. Those people have showed me how and what does it mean to feel your supervisor as your mother, as your sister, as your brother, as your cousin, as someone who is there for you. In the cabin crew job, it is so important that when you are working with people who are more experienced than you, those people are making you feel protected, loved, cared for, and you're basically not afraid to make a mistake because they will back you up. They will not stab you. Although you will hear a lot of stories, ladies and gentlemen, you will hear thousands of stories of this senior being like that, this crew being like that, she is going to report you. Do not let this kind of stories just occupy your mind. There are, I'm very sorry to say this again, there are cabin crew consultants who are building up their social media platform based on this type of attitude themselves in order to gather audience, which is very entertaining to hear and know about it. However, if you let this thoughts of negative things and situations that are happening among the cabin crew community, when you will become a cabin crew later on, that these things will bring you nothing good. If they follow you and if your attitude is tailored based on them. So therefore, you will meet people who will not be pleasant, that's for sure. You will meet people who will not be supportive, that's for sure. But I will promise you that that situation and those people cannot last forever, and that the cabin crew communities of the Middle Eastern airlines in general are communities of wonderful people. That's why the selection process is not easy. I'm very sure that even if in future the cabin crew recruiters are going to be having even harder time choosing among the candidates, because the quality of the candidates, or the quality of the skillful candidates, is indeed high and high. The competition is high and high. Therefore, the recruiter's job is for sure harder. Nevertheless, I'm very sure that they're contributing, they have been contributing, and they will contribute in straightening that community of cabin crew, which are supportive, which are teamwork, which are there to assist and help each other, to be there for each other. This is the main thing. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you're part of, you want to stay in this community of excrewnextcrew army, or excrewnextcrew people that are learning from an ex-crew how to become an ex-crew, you might want to click the subscribe button. That will also help us to grow. And then I'm going to be seeing you soon with another video. Bye bye and have a nice day.